Romeo is a feared gangster bad boy who is in love with the school idol despite leading the rival gang. When he finally confesses his love to her, she unexpectedly agrees to date him. But they will have to keep their clapping sessions in secret, or their gangs will clap them into afterlife. But before all this, it was a battle between the two dorms, the Black Dogs, led by Romeo, against the White Cats, led by Lady Juliet, who is Romeo's rival. But just as about to throw hands, Juliet's assistant, Scott, rizzes her up, saying that he will protect her. But that annoys Romeo so much that he almost yeets his existence. Juliet saves him from Romeo and states that she doesn't need protection, but when Romeo refuses to go all out against Juliet, she gets pissed off after getting looked down upon. Just then, the White Cat's Prefect shows up to stop their foolish battle, and when the Black Dogs try to refuse, they threaten to call up the Black Dogs Prefect, which scares them so much they decide to retreat. Afterward, in class, the Black Dogs are pissed after getting themselves stopped and plan to fight back the White Cat students. Romeo's close friend, Huki, tries to cheer up Romeo using her plots by saying she wants to cheer him up. But Romeo ignores the degenerate opportunity like a Chad and walks out of the class. He heads to the back of the building, letting out his rage as for the longest time, even in the middle of their rivalry, he was always in love with Juliet and is pissed that they always fought each other. Realizing that he couldn't be a pathetic wimp like this, Romeo decides to find a way to confess to her. But first, he decides to get intel by spying on the girl. Meanwhile, Juliet is in the middle of training kendo, and while she feels that she's powerful enough to take on anything, she is pissed with how Romeo always held back against her. Romeo, who is gathering intel, realizes that his chance of bumping bellies with her is small, and now feels desperate because of it. Just then, he hears the sound of the other White Cat students getting to the practice room, and they are pulling other students from the Black Dog. They hand over the Black Dog students to Juliet, saying that they caught the Black Dog students making a mess in the White Cat dorm, and now they want to punish the kids. Romeo tries to hold himself back from getting involved, but to his surprise, instead of giving the kids the punishment her friends wished her to do, Juliet encouraged the kids be strong and tell her friends not to let their emotions get swayed by some minor issues. After seeing Juliet giving a speech, Romeo folds in an instant, realizing that her class is the reason why he fell in love with her. But to his surprise, he gets caught after standing right in front of them, which makes Romeo freeze like a deer in headlights. They ask him if he's there to start a fight, but Romeo wants to confess to Juliet. However, before he gets to do it, he folds and quickly runs away like a coward. While he's running away, 3 of his seniors, Tosa, Kohitsuji, and Maru, are spying on Juliet, and they are tired of Romeo's leadership leading them to nothing, so they decide to do something about it. On the way back to her dorm, Juliet is attacked by 2 of them, and Juliet manages to handle them without breaking a sweat. However, Maru comes from behind using a paper spray to completely neutralize Juliet, and then the 3 capture her. To embarrass her, Maru cuts the girl's plot cover and exposes the most delicious jello they could ever get. But before they do anything vile to her, Romeo jumps in and takes Juliet away for himself. The 3 are confused about why he's there, but before they get answers, more White Cat students pop up, forcing them to escape. Meanwhile, Romeo lands on the silky vanilla jello, which almost makes him forget himself for a second. He quickly backs off from Juliet, and when he sees the damsel's tears, he realizes that she's crying, as she thinks that he was the one who attacked her. Before he gets to say a word, Juliet runs away from him, and Romeo realizes that it's over for his romance. That night, when Romeo steps into his dorm, he gets stopped by the 3 seniors. They are about to confront him for his earlier stunt, but before they get to say a single word, Romeo smacks them silly, furiously telling them that they made his situation more difficult than ever. Romeo wonders how he should explain what is really happening, and in that moment, an arrow hit Maru's head with a message on it. Romeo reads that it's from Juliet, asking him to meet up by the fountain, saying that she wants to talk about something important. Feeling scared and excited at the same time, Romeo goes to the fountain and finds Juliet already waiting for him with 2 swords in her hands. Because of her big ego, Juliet demands an explanation of what happened, asking Romeo whether he was trying to save her out of pity or to attack her. Romeo knows that he's not ready to tell her that he saved her because he loved her, but either way, Juliet doesn't like to be looked down on by other people. So to answer that question, Juliet demanded that Romeo fight her without holding back. Romeo denies the accusation, saying that he never thinks that way about her, but Juliet doesn't believe it. She always knew that Romeo held his punches in every fight they ever had, and with that, she thinks that Romeo never took her seriously. Deep down, Romeo never thinks of Juliet that way. He once heard about Juliet being the only child of the royal family, and all of the royal fortune could only be passed down to the men. Now Romeo understands why Juliet is trying so hard to get the acknowledgement she had right now. Because she wants to change the rules of the world, she has to be strong and smart. As if she weren't strong enough, she would lose everything. Romeo only wants to protect Juliet, but he now realizes that it only hurts her. So now he decides to get all out, no more holding back, and accept Juliet's challenge for a fight. With swords in hand, the 2 now get their first serious fight. Romeo gets all the strength and the courage in him for this fight, and when the 2 swords crash into one another, Romeo confesses his feelings, saying that he loves her. It makes Juliet flustered, and Romeo explains that the reason why he was holding back is because he was in love with Juliet. He decides to take every chance he can get to be with the woman he loves, and states that with her by his side, he feels that he can change the world. After getting rizzed up, Juliet pushes him into the fountain behind him. She tells him that he's crazy for thinking he can change the world, but after seeing his determination, she declares that she will help him achieve his goal, and she will do it by dating him. It makes Romeo cry to have his feelings accepted by the woman he has always loved, but Juliet warns him that they have to keep it a secret, which Romeo agrees to. The next day, the Black Dog dorm and the White Cat dorm fight like usual, with Romeo and Juliet leading their own dorm. However, while everyone puts on their serious face, Romeo can't help but look like a donkey on drugs after his accepted proposal. When everyone is fighting each other, Romeo steals Juliet and pulls her away so he can have alone time with her, like what he thought a couple would do. But before he gets to do anything, Romeo's side chick, Huki, pops up and ruins the moment, forcing Romeo to act out and attack Juliet on her face. Juliet, who is in pain from his grip, immediately kicks Romeo's face and walks away, leaving him knocked out. Later, when the girls of the White Cat are changing their clothes, Juliet feels a bit sad, and when she sees the flowers beside her, she remembers how she once brought the same flowers to her father. But because the old prune was a busy man, he destroyed the flowers. She starts remembering how Romeo said that he wants them to have alone time together, reminding her of how she used to want the same from her father. Suddenly, in the middle of her changing and lost in thought, Romeo pops up by the window like he's Spooderman. Romeo explains that he's here to apologize for earlier, and knowing how Juliet, who is a Westerner, cherishes her rosary for prayers, he wants to give one to her as a gift. He reveals that he had been asking around like a creep, asking about people's beliefs. Romeo now knows that the Westerners will give a rosary to their partner, and that's what he is doing right now. Romeo takes the rosary out, but before he can give it to Juliet, Scott, Juliet's annoying pet, suddenly hangs on the other window and ruins the moment. He assumes that Romeo is there to take some plotful pics of Juliet, so he starts fighting, and it causes the two of them to fall from the window. Later, Romeo wakes up and gets a perfect view of two apples on top of him. Huki explains that she is watching over him while the others go after Juliet, thinking that Juliet pushed Romeo from the window. However, because of his worries about Juliet, Romeo runs off to catch her. Then, Juliet is about to go somewhere when Romeo finds her, but instead she runs away as well because the horde of the Black Dog Boys is coming after her. Romeo tries to stop the gang, but in that moment, he gets attacked by Scott and the other White Cats, which starts another fight. It frustrates Romeo with how difficult it is for him to give Juliet a gift, and just then, Scott and his friends attack Romeo from all sides. Out of frustration, Romeo stands up and is ready to fight back, but due to his own strength, he accidentally breaks the rosary that is in his hand. It breaks his spirit to see his gift broken. So out of his own insanity, Romeo lifts one big statue and goes on a rampage against everyone who's in his way, yeeting both black dogs and white cats to the sky, not caring anymore. Because of vandalism, Romeo gets punished and has to clean up the garden from the wild grass by hand. With the rosary broken, he simply wants to throw it in the lake, but Juliet pops up to stop him, saying that he's not allowed to litter. Romeo apologizes to her for the broken gift, but realizing that he has good intentions, Juliet asks him to go ride the boat with her instead. In the middle of the lake, Juliet immediately attacks Romeo straight to the nether region, making him think that he's getting brain. However, Juliet takes the broken rosary out of his pocket. Romeo tells her that it's fine to throw it away, even though it hurts wasting away his savings, but without telling the truth, Juliet can see the sadness on Romeo's face and asks him to close his eyes. He opens his eyes thinking he's getting a kiss, but to his surprise, Juliet puts her own rosary on Romeo's neck, saying that the rosary is her important gift from her mother, and now she wants Romeo to have it as a lucky charm, which to Juliet is a token of her honest feelings, so she wants him to take care of it. However, Romeo refuses to have it due to its importance to Juliet, but that spoils her mood, so she wants to go home. Romeo quickly tries to cheer her up, but ends up falling from the boat. Juliet tells him to cool off and leaves him in the water, begging her to help him. Days later, the students get a day off from school, and when everyone is visiting the city, Huki tries to get Romeo's attention and asks him to go with her. But to her surprise, Romeo tells her that he already has a plan with someone else. Then, Romeo's date pops up, a cute brunette boy, which makes Huki think deeply whether Romeo actually prefers to swing the other way. But unbeknownst to her, the boy turns out to be Juliet in disguise. Days before, Romeo asked her to go out with him to the city on their day off, and because he didn't want to make a scene, he handed her a disguise that would make her look like one of his homies. However, despite his flawless disguise, Scott runs towards them, screaming Juliet's name. And while they are in shock, Scott gets confused, believing that he smelled Juliet's scent like a crazy dog from a mile away. Just then, other Black Dog students pop up, asking Romeo who he's with, and he introduces Juliet as Julio, his nephew. However, when they look at Juliet closely, they get rizzed up seeing this cute boy, making all of these dudes question their preferences. Then, more Black Dog students show up, curious about Julio, and because of them, Romeo's date plans are ruined as they join them on their date. It stops Romeo from wanting to buy a new rosary for Juliet, as he can't do it because she is crowded by the others. He declares that they have to go through him to hang out with Julio, but while they are fighting, the girls from the Black Dogs talk about how Romeo is much more excited compared to usual. Juliet asks them if that's true, and the girls inform her that Unlike that day, Romeo is usually grumpy and pushes people away from him. When Romeo wants to take Juliet on a romantic lunch together, the restaurant gets fully booked and they end up eating ramen. During it, Juliet gets the ramen spilled on her, and when Romeo tries to help her, she punches him instead. Then Romeo tries taking Juliet to a haunted house for some privacy, but because she's extremely scared by the zombies, she punches both Romeo and the zombie before running away from him. Romeo runs out looking for Juliet, and he gets depressed thinking that she will end up hating the date and going home. In the middle of his depression, the three idiots, Maru, Kohitsuji, and Tosa, walk by and see him depressed in front of the ocean. Wanting to get revenge, Maru kicks him into the sea, and when he realizes that Romeo can't swim, Maru keeps pushing Romeo into the water. In that moment, Juliet pops up, stating that Romeo is someone precious to her, and when Maru starts teasing her about it, she manhandles him like a ragdoll, leaving him on the floor like a bum. Afterward, Romeo apologizes for the horrible date, saying that the date was ruined, but to his surprise, Juliet denies his words. She informs him that she ran away because the wig causes her head to itch, so she had to take a breather. She tells him that after all the new experiences she had, like eating ramen as a Westerner, the date was not ruined at all. It makes her happy because she can understand Romeo more today and see the sides of him that she never knew. She expresses how she wants to go on another date with him, which touches Romeo's feelings. Suddenly, Scott pops up, catching them both, and Romeo quickly pretends to fight Juliet, which Scott believes, and ends with Romeo getting punched by Juliet. A month passes after Romeo started dating Juliet, and to celebrate their relationship, Romeo asks Juliet for a celebration together for them 3 days from then. After seeing how much he wants a celebration, Juliet makes fun of him for being cheesy about something so simple as dating her, and it makes Romeo sad that Juliet doesn't want to, so he decides to celebrate it alone. However, after seeing him so desperate, Juliet tells him that they can celebrate in 3 days from then. Just then, both Scott and Hasuki pop up, forcing the couple to pretend fighting, and when asked why they are there, they explain that the violent princess of the West, Lady Chartreuse, has returned from her absence. On campus, a flashy girl appears in her whip, one who hasn't attended school in over a year. With a brat-like arrogant attitude, she demands everyone come and greet her within 3 minutes. The White Cats obediently roll out a carpet for her, and they obediently gather to welcome her as commanded. When she sees Scott among them, Chartreuse demands he tell her a joke, saying that if he's as unfunny as Amy Schumer, she will smack him. Despite being as bland as beans on toast, Scott tries his best, but she slaps him across the face out of sheer boredom, leaving him humiliated. Juliet approaches calmly to greet her, and Chartreuse's gaze immediately locks onto her, and she starts treating her like she's a prized Barbie doll. However, her mood shifts completely when she notices the black dogs refusing to bow like the others, and she demands that they join the others and greet her like the good puppies they are. While watching her arrogance, Romeo refuses to get disrespected and instinctively charges forward, ready to punch her. However, Chartreuse reveals that she knows about his secret relationship with Juliet, which completely stops him in his tracks. Romeo tries to play dumb, pretending he doesn't know what she's talking about, but with a smug smile, Chartreuse shows Romeo a picture of him and Juliet, causing Romeo to be blown away. Everyone around them misinterprets the situation, thinking that Romeo is stunned by her ample plots rather than the threat in her hands. Desperate to protect his relationship Juliet, Romeo listens as Chartreuse proposes a deal: become her pet or she'll expose their relationship. With no choice, Romeo agrees, and Chartreuse is delighted to have the upper hand. She flaunts her power by ordering Romeo to massage her plots in front of everyone, reducing him to a panting dog while Juliet watches with a pained expression. Hasuki slaps him up to stop him, but it's too late, as all the black dogs now question Rome's loyalty. Later, Romeo meets Chartreuse again in secret, and she binds Romeo with a rule where he must come running the moment she blows her whistle, and obey her every command or else the truth comes out. Romeo realizes that if the truth comes out, Juliet will lose all of her respect from her peers, which will take away her strength, ultimately destroying her dream to change the world. Romeo sacrifices his pride to keep Juliet safe, kneeling before Chartreuse and accepting whatever she demands. Then, Juliet secretly meets him, and after what she saw earlier, she asks him if he really prefers Chartreuse melons compared to her oranges, but Romeo assures her that all sizes are good for him. Suddenly, the whistle blows, and he's forced to leave Juliet without any explanation. Chartreuse sits on Romeo's back like he's her pet, and demands he take her to places, and when he tries to rebel, she threatens her with the picture, forcing him to be obedient. It causes the other black dogs to see him as a traitor after seeing him be a lapdog to a white cat, and Maru sees his chance to capitalize. Later, Romeo pulls up to Juliet, still in his dog form, wanting to explain his situation, but before he gets to do it, the whistle blows again, forcing him to attend to her, and she demands him to hunt down deers for her dinner. That night, Juliet still waits for him in the garden. When Romeo finally returns, exhausted and injured from all the deer hunting, the whistle blows again, But Juliet realizes the whistle she hears from afar is connected to all of this. She demands an explanation, but while Romeo couldn't tell her the truth, Romeo swears he'll explain everything, insisting it's all for her protection. Juliet believes him and encourages him to fight back, saying that she believes him to be undefeated. Then Romeo meets with Chartreuse again, but after Juliet's encouragement, Romeo decides to play Chartreuse game to find her weakness and turn the tables before his celebration with Juliet. As if things couldn't get worse, Romeo returns to his dorm to find all his belongings tossed outside. When he demands an explanation, Maru informs him that he should have been lynched, but because Huki pleaded for him, the Black Dogs decide to spare Romeo by telling him to sleep somewhere else. Despite not having a room, Romeo looks at Huki and thanks her from his heart for saving him. Then, Chartreuse demands get even worse, where she makes Romeo massage her feet, feed her, or show up just to be beaten up by hired thugs. While he wants to smack her silly, he resists from doing so and keeps searching for a weakness in Chartreuse. However, he quickly realizes that Chartreuse is almost perfect in every facet of her life, showing that she has zero weaknesses. However, a small crack of weakness appears, as during their walk, Chartreuse falls oddly quiet when she sees that Juliet is nearby. The next day, Romeo asks Juliet what she knows about Chartreuse. Juliet reveals that Chartreuse was once her closest friend, ever since childhood, but something changed inside her when she returned to school. Suddenly, the whistle blows again, and when Romeo is about to run to Chartreuse, Juliet holds him back. He sees a tinge of jealousy cross Juliet's face when Romeo brings up Chartreuse, and he makes it his mission to find the weakness before their anniversary celebration. The next day, Romeo fakes an announcement to lure Chartreuse away and sneaks into her room, searching for anything he can use against her. However, to Romeo's surprise, Chartreuse anticipates his move to sneak in her room and returns early, saying that she knows he's there. She looks for him everywhere in her room, and to her confusion, she couldn't find him anywhere. In that moment, she realizes where she's hiding, and Romeo reveals himself from behind the mirror, in her secret chamber. There, Romeo finds her hidden stash of photos of Juliet. Armed with leverage, Romeo confronts her, saying how he knows that she also loves Juliet, and while she tries to deny the accusation, he threatens to reveal the photos, saying how Juliet and the whole school will look at Chartreuse like she's the next Diddy for the pictures. Chartreuse breaks under the pressure and confesses that, being her best friend, Juliet was the only person she ever cherished, and it makes Chartreuse furious when she sees Juliet in love with a crusty bum like Romeo. When he sees how much she's hurting, Romeo begins to understand her pain, but before they can resolve anything, a knock comes at the door, and it's Juliet. Chartreuse starts panicking, not knowing what to do, but Romeo tells her that he will help her. Romeo scrambles to clean up while Chartreuse plays innocent, trying her best to stop Juliet from seeing the pictures. When Juliet enters, the room is clean of all evidence, and Chartreuse is relieved. Juliet tells Chartreuse that she's going to an important meeting, which makes Chartreuse feel jealous, but when Juliet notices how she feels, Juliet softly tells her that Chartreuse will always be special to her. It makes Chartreuse emotional, and she tells Juliet how she is also someone special to her. After Juliet leaves, Chartreuse lets Romeo out of her secret chamber filled with the photos and asks him why he helped her. Romeo expresses how he knows how it feels not being able to confess his feelings, and while Chartreuse stops her hostility, she tells him that she will never approve of his relationship with Juliet. Later, Romeo meets Juliet for their anniversary celebration, and when he notices his broken rosary as her necklace, Romeo starts crying out of happiness seeing her accept his gift. But unbeknownst to them, Chartreuse is watching them from afar, and she decides not to bother them for a while. Years ago, while other students were friends with one another, Romeo was always the one people avoided due to how confrontational he was, but he wasn't alone, as Huki was the same way. In the present day, Huki showers to prepare herself for the Black Dog's greatest enemy, the exam. The other Black Dogs gather to prepare for the exam, but Romeo brings Juliet with him, and she's in disguise. She asks why she has to be there, and Romeo explains that every exam season, the Black Dogs have a study session together for 3 days straight. But because he can't see Juliet for the next 3 days, he wants her to be by his side. As the group gathers for the study session, the 3 idiots pass by and stop to tease them for studying like nerds. But the moment Maru spots Juliet among the group, he remembers her as the one who slammed him, and in a blink, he's sitting across from her saying how he wants to join the study session. Just then, Huki pops up, and now in full tutor mode, she acts harshly towards everyone. Juliet asks Romeo why she's different, but in that moment, Huki yeets books at both Romeo and Juliet's heads, ordering them not to mess around in her class. Romeo explains that while Huki is usually very chill, she doesn't play around when it comes to grades, and when she puts on her glasses, she turns a full 180. Huki then hands them mock exams for them to do, and while Romeo initially wants to impress Juliet with his grades, he falls asleep on the first question. It gets him punished by Huki, who forces him to open his eyes using torture devices. Meanwhile, Maru opts to use his phone for cheating, saying that they all should focus on finding a way to cheat. But when Juliet expresses how cheating is for losers, Maru quickly destroys his phone, saying that cheating is for losers. As the study session continues, Juliet points out how Romeo hasn't complained once during Huki's tutoring, and he tells her that because Huki is the one who cares about their grades the most, he and the other Black Dogs respect her so much that they all listen to her. After the session ends, Romeo helps Juliet escape through the sewer tunnel, and she expresses how she enjoyed the study session, as the White Cats don't have anything like that. Once Juliet's gone, Huki shows up looking for him, and he thanks her for the lesson, saying that thanks to her he can pass the test. She smiles hearing his words and feels relieved that Romeo has returned back to normal, which confuses him. Huki explains that she sometimes doesn't understand the things he does, such as playing dog to Chartreuse. But she understands, as his friend, that he must have been keeping secrets. It makes him realize how he's keeping a secret from his dear friend. But though he promises that nothing's going on, in reality he's hiding his relationship with Juliet. Then, when Huki leaves, Chartreuse, who has been stalking him, sneaks up behind Romeo, pinches his cheek, and warns him not to be stupid by bringing Juliet to his dorm. She teases him for playing hooky with both Juliet and Huki, but Romeo assures her that Huki is his best friend whom he trusts more than anyone. However, when Chartreuse reminds him how he's keeping a secret from Huki, he deflects by saying that everyone has secrets. While deep down Romeo wants to tell Huki the truth, he knows that, since she loves the black dog so much, they won't stay friends. Meanwhile, Huki is happily working on the next exam paper for the group when Maru, who is still awake, strolls in to join her. He gives her an apple and confronts her about her truth, saying how he knows that the reason Huki started the study session is because of Romeo. Huki admits it, and when Maru asks her why she likes a clapped dude like Romeo, she answers, saying that she used to be a shy girl, but because of Romeo's blunt honesty, it helped her to become more open and confident as a person. Now she wants to return the favor and continue to stand by his side, but unbeknownst to them, Romeo hears the whole thing. He never realized Huki felt that way, and when Maru leaves the room, Romeo steps in, telling Huki that he heard the whole thing. Since the truth is out, Huki smiles and answers simply that she loves him. It catches Romeo off guard, as he never expected her to feel that way, but before it's too late, he decides to tell her the truth. He confesses everything to Huki, telling her about his relationship with Juliet, showing her the rosary Juliet gave him. He apologizes and asks her to accept it, even if it means rejecting her feelings. At first, Huki freezes, but after taking it in, Huki suddenly yells out to the whole dorm, announcing what she just heard, but Romeo immediately covers her mouth. Just then, she hugs Romeo tightly, then throws a white cloth over him. Reminding him of the vow they took as a black dog, she demands that he commit seppuku, as black dogs are not allowed to fall in love with a white cat. When Romeo pleads for mercy, she grabs the katana displayed nearby and threatens to enforce the code herself. She starts chasing him with a katana, and he realizes how naive he is, thinking that Huki would understand. During the chase, 2 of the 3 idiots pop up, and when Huki runs past them, it destroys their clothes completely, leaving them going commando. Romeo dives out the window, and when Juliet looks out the window, she sees him being chased around by a katana-wielding Huki right behind him. The chase leads deep into the woods, and Romeo ends up dangling from a tree when Juliet finds him. He explains everything to Juliet, who is shocked at hear that Romeo told Huki the truth. Just then, Huki shows up, and the sight of Romeo and Juliet together only fuels Huki's fury, so she lunges at them both. However, Chartreuse pops up to block Huki's blade with her foot, and when Juliet asks her why she's there, Chartreuse reveals to her that she knows about her relationship with Romeo. However, she confesses that after putting Juliet in danger just now, she's not there to protect Romeo, but instead is there to punish him. Realizing he's being hunted by 2 terrifying women, Romeo grabs Juliet and they bolt deeper into the forest. They stop at a cliff with no way forward, and Romeo starts pitying himself, saying how his dreams of changing the world are bogus when he couldn't even change his friend's heart. However, Juliet encourages him to stop running and face them, saying that since he managed to change her heart, he can change anything. After hearing her encouragement, Romeo turns to face them, and when Huki is about to stick her blade in his skull, he tells Huki how he still wants to be her friend, no matter what she feels. The katana hits him, but it only causes him to bleed a little due to it being a replica, as he knows that Huki doesn't want to really hurt him. Huki breaks down, crying uncontrollably and telling Romeo she hates him. Suddenly, behind them, Juliet slips off the edge of the cliff and Romeo leaps after her, not caring that he couldn't swim, but both Huki and Chartreuse dive in to save them. In the end, Huki pulls Romeo out to save him, while Chartreuse saves Juliet. Huki furiously asks him why he jumped in, even though he couldn't swim, and when Romeo expresses that he did it to save Juliet, Huki realizes that there's no hope for her feelings to get reciprocated by Romeo, so instead, she just cries, and Romeo lets her. The next day, Romeo wakes up in his dorm, relieved after realizing that Huki didn't tell anyone. And when she does pop up, she smiles like usual, but deep down, she accepts the truth of how being the best friend is the only label she'll ever have. A few months have passed since they started dating, and Romeo decides it's time to ask Juliet for something every guy dreams of getting from his girlfriend, involving some cream and sausages. Juliet's mind races. Her face heats up, thinking that he's about to ask her for her forbidden fruit. But to her surprise, Romeo simply asks to eat her homemade bento. She accepts his request, saying how a noble lady like her can handle an easy task. But the next day, Juliet spends her time struggling in the kitchen, as she has never cooked before. The dorm's chef pops up offering to help her, but Juliet refuses, wanting to do everything herself. However, it ends with all her cooking ending up horrible, which forces her to do what's necessary. When the bento is finally ready, Romeo can't wait another second to try it. But his joy is short-lived as Chartreuse swoops in, teasing him and jokingly offering her shoe for him to eat instead. She feels jealous that she herself never got to eat Juliet's cooking, so she steals the bento for herself, declaring she'll be the one to eat it. In her attempt to escape, her plots get stuck in a tree branch, and the bento flies away from her hand. Things only spiral from there as the bento drops directly onto Scott's head while he's in the middle of training. Juliet rushes in to retrieve it, but Scott completely misunderstands as he now believes Juliet wants to have lunch with him, hence why she cooked for him. When Romeo pops up, he kicks Scott's head to get the lunchbox back. Scott accuses him of wanting to steal the lunchbox, which he admits that he does. It turns into a fight between the two over Juliet's homemade lunch, and they start throwing hands and trading blows. When Romeo gets the upper hand, he calls Scott a weakling, but he takes offense over it and kicks Romeo down. He tells Romeo that Juliet was the person who saved him from going down a dark path, but Romeo stops him from activating his plot armor through a flashback, and using a whole tree, he dumps it on Scott. It causes the bento to fly away, and while Romeo does his best to chase it down, the bento box ends up in the pig's pen, where the pigs eat the lunchbox clean. While Romeo feels defeated, Scott collapses in dramatic heartbreak, and Chartreuse drags him away like a pile of laundry to play with him. Romeo stares at the mess, disappointed, realizing that he let Juliet's hard work go to waste, but before he can speak, Juliet apologizes. She admits that she didn't make the bento herself, and that it was the maid in the kitchen who made the bento, as she doesn't know how to cook properly, which makes Romeo realize that they were all fighting for an old prune's homemade lunchbox. However, she reveals that there's one thing she did make herself, which is a bag of her failed cookies. She offers them to Romeo, and he gladly accepts them. When he takes a bite, he almost dies, but when he sees that Juliet almost cries, he continues eating like it's the best thing in the world. He expresses how surprised he is to know that Juliet actually has normal girl problems, but Juliet tells him that she strives to be perfect. Romeo calms her down, rizzing her by saying that she can relax whenever she's with him. And while it calms her down, she promises that one day she'll make a real bento for him. With summer getting closer, the school prepares for the annual school sports festival, but while the others are excited for it, Romeo dreads it, as last year he failed miserably in the final race. The three idiots pop up, and to Romeo's surprise, they also look forward to the sports festival, as they are planning to cheat to win. However, Maru tells Romeo that he shouldn't even join and reminds him of his failure, but Romeo bites his finger, telling him not to remind him of it. While the boys clown around, Hasuki steals a few glances at Romeo, and when her friends notice it, they tell her about MVP Jinx, which is a superstition that says when you win the sports festival's MVP, you get to pick a dance with anybody, and when you dance with them, you'll eventually become a real couple with that person. When they see that Hasuki is intrigued, Hasuki's friends set up the perfect trap. They call out Romeo and casually ask if he'll dance with Hasuki if she wins MVP. Thinking that it's an innocent dance, Romeo casually agrees, which makes Hasuki flustered. Later that day, while Romeo waits for Juliet, he hears Scott leading the White Cats through the campus with a marching song mocking the Black Dogs. Romeo jumps at Scott to confront the song, and they start fighting. Scott mocks Romeo about last year's loss, and just as Romeo's about to hit Scott, someone stops him with one hand. To everyone's shock, it's a girl named Somali, who is the pet of Abi. While Abi introduces himself as a local Chad who gets all the girls, Somali introduces herself as Abby's lover, but Abi bluntly scolds Somali, telling her that she's nobody to him, which she doesn't accept. Instead, Abi tries rizzing up Juliet, telling her that his and her faction should join forces by them dating, but to his surprise, Juliet tells him she doesn't like soy boys like him. It angers both Scott and Romeo, and when Somali senses his anger, Somali attacks Romeo. But Juliet blocks the attack, declaring that if anyone wants to fight, they should save it for the festival. That night, Romeo still doesn't get why everyone is so obsessed with the festival, but as he zones out, a message arrives through an arrow shot by Juliet, and she asks him to accompany her to practice the three-legged race in the morning. Romeo flips out and gets so excited for the rest of the night, and in the morning, when he meets Juliet, he starts by complimenting her look, which she appreciates. Then she ties up their legs together, and when Romeo accidentally sees the accidental fan service, he pokes his eyes out, saying that they have been blessed. However, when they get into position for the three-legged race, they realize that the height difference is screwing them up, so Juliet puts Romeo's hand on her hip, causing him to get a period from the nose. To distract himself, he asks Juliet why she is excited for the sports festival, and Juliet tells him that if she can win MVP, it will get her more recognition, which will also help her father. After hearing that, Romeo snaps back to reality, and because he understands how much it means to her, he gets serious. So from that point on, he puts genuine effort into their training. After the training, Juliet brings up Romeo's failure at the previous festival, where he screwed up the 100-meter dash, causing his dorm to lose. She tells him that she believes he can do better, especially after the training, and Romeo realizes that she invited him to train with her for his sake. Juliet proposes a deal that if either of them wins MVP, they get to ask the other for anything, and the challenge lights a fire in Romeo's heart, so now, he's no longer just running for pride, but he's running for her. On the day of the festival, it starts with a word of greetings from both dorms' housemasters, but after they finish, the black dogs and white cats waste no time facing off against each other, claiming that victory is theirs. The first competition is tug of war. Leading the way for the black dogs are Romeo and Tosa, while the white cats have Scott and Abi, and on their first move, the black dogs wins the move. But Abi says to Scott that they don't need to worry, as their main strength is on the back of the team, which turns out to be Somali. With her godlike strength, she turns the tide in the white cat's favor, but when Abi praises her, she folds like a lawn chair and lets go of the rope, causing the black dogs to win the first battle. The second event is the athletic course. On the black dog's side, Maru takes the lead. At the first obstacle, Maru cheats by scattering glass nails on the path, hoping Chartreuse steps on them. But to his surprise, she's one step ahead. As with her usual flair, she has her squad carry her on a chair while they do the running. Maru explodes in frustration and reports her to the referee, but it's no use. The white cats win, and Maru loses it after getting beaten by a girl who didn't even touch the ground. From the three-legged race to the balloon-popping run to the 100-meter dash, the events blur into a whirlwind of rivalry until they reach the final 3 rounds. During the break, Romeo sits down with Juliet, and she informs him that her mother is in the stands watching her, and she wants to show her and her father that she can be MVP. Romeo asks her if he should introduce himself to her mother, and to his surprise, Juliet is not against that idea and instead encourages it. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Abi is scheming a devious plan alongside Somali. Then, during the stick-down competition, Abi sends in Somali, and as Juliet climbs to topple the black dog's pole, Somali races up after her, leaning the structure dangerously, but in that moment, Somali's real goal isn't victory, it's sabotage as she shows Juliet her boot. The white cats win the battle with their dorm, leading by 50 points, but Juliet walks away with a limp. When Chartreuse shows her worry, Juliet hides her injury behind a smile. Then, it's the mixed relay, and while the boys are running towards the girls, Juliet is ready to go up against Huki. Before they get the baton, Huki declares to Juliet that she refuses to lose to her, and Juliet tells her that she feels the same way. Then, they receive the batons, and both girls sprint with everything they've got. Huki initially gains the lead, but with full determination, Juliet pulls ahead, closing in to win the race. Suddenly, before she wins the glory, Juliet's baton falls on the floor as she collapses mid-run. Silence falls over the field, and Romeo instinctively bolts toward her, but Chartreuse stops him, telling him that he's destroying her reputation if he tries to help. Seeing how weak Juliet is, Abi starts mocking her, showing the audience how weak the leader of the White Cats really is to get his faction more support. Slowly, the audience begins to turn, whispering that Juliet is a burden. However, Romeo clenches his fist and slams it into the wall beside him to shut everyone up. Chartreuse confronts Abi for what he did, and while he plays dumb, she coldly warns him that he will regret what he did. Outside the clinic, Romeo and Chartreuse wait in silence, and Chartreuse confesses what she saw. Chartreuse informs Romeo that Somali deliberately stomped on Juliet's leg, and she's sure that Abi must have pulled the strings, as he wants to destroy Juliet's faction and take leadership for himself. Without proof, there's nothing they can do, but after seeing his Juliet got hurt, he decides to get justice in the final match. He calls out to Juliet from outside the clinic, and knowing that she's crying, Romeo tells her to watch him as he aims to make Abi his little dog. The last event is the Cavalry battle, and while the others are going at it against each other, Romeo is in the middle of begging Maru to be his horse, but Maru refuses to work together with him. Maru grumbles, refusing to lift a finger. Meanwhile, Huki's team charges ahead, collecting victory tags with speed and precision over the White Cats. But Abi has other ideas. He activates his plan, and in that moment, black dogs start dropping one by one. Being vulnerable, Abi manages to defeat Huki's team, which was dominating, leaving Romeo and Maru to find themselves surrounded by other White Cats. While Romeo is trying to find a way out, Maru still refuses to work together. But in that moment, just when things seem hopeless, Juliet, disguised as Julio, cheers at Romeo from afar. While it motivates Romeo, it also fires up Maru, who mishears and thinks that Julio is cheering for him. Together, Romeo and Maru bounce back, crushing opponent after opponent until they're face-to-face with Abi's elite team. Abi still grins, feeling confident with himself, but suddenly, 2 of his men collapse, and when he looks back, he realizes that the 2 idiots secretly stung them back into the fight. Abi tries to protest, but Maru blocks him with a smirk. He reveals that he knows about Abi's plan of putting sleeping drugs in the drinks of the black dogs, but Maru decides not to report it because he wants to break Abi himself. Somali lunges to defend her master, kicking at Maru with a deadly strike, but Romeo intercepts her. He reveals the nail hidden in her shoe, the same one that injured Juliet, which angers him. With one punch, Romeo drives his fist into AB's face and sends him flying across the stadium like a ragdoll. The referee calls the match, ready to declare victory, but Romeo stops them. He declares that there is one more opponent for him to face, and he calls out Juliet, deeming her the final boss. Juliet understands immediately what he's doing, as it's not just about victory, but it's about taking back her pride. She rises, injured but resolute, and walks into the field with Chartreuse by her side for one final battle, all for dignity, revenge, and everything they've built. With the final cavalry battle heading into overtime, both Romeo and Juliet don't have the intention to lose. Romeo throws the first punch, and even though Juliet is still injured, Juliet blocks it and headbutts him, as what she wants is to win and gain respect fair and square. As the battle rages on between the two leaders, the crowd gets to finally see Juliet at her best, and they go wild with their support, wishing Juliet her victory. As both sides start to get tired, both Romeo and Juliet want to finish it in the next blow. But just as Romeo is about to win, Juliet dodges, causing him to accidentally touch the almighty jelly. It shocks everyone watching, flustered Juliet, and after feeling the lovely sensation, Romeo collapses, giving the White Cats the victory. While Juliet is named MVP for the whole festival, Romeo lies on the ground as Maru and the rest of the Black Dogs glare at him in disgust, telling him that he is no longer their leader after his major fumble in the final battle. Later, during the after-party, Scott's on a mission to find Juliet, wanting to dance with her to fulfill the MVP jinx. But Chartreuse calls out to him, reminding him of their deal that if he lost, he'd have to be shaved like a baby. Scott tries to flee, but Chartreuse already has a pink razor ready. With a cute grin, she drags him while bickering over which part of him will be shaved. Meanwhile, Romeo is outside, melon-shamed and abandoned after the loss. Suddenly, Juliet appears, and when Romeo tries to apologize for the jelly grab, she stops him, saying she doesn't want to talk about it. When he asks why she's not at the dance, she admits she slipped away to ask him to be her partner. Not knowing about the jinx, Romeo accepts and invites her to dance like a fool. While he dances away, Juliet remembers how he fought so valiantly for her against Abby, and she joins in his dance, secretly wishing the jinx is true. A month later, in the school meeting room, the prefects of both the Black Dogs and White Cats are reviewing the festival. The Black Dogs accuse the White Cats of cheating after what Abby did at the festival, but the White Cats refuse to cooperate in the discussion. It angers the Black Dogs, and the White Cats tell them that just like how they have an issue with a White Cat, they have an issue with one problematic Black Dog, Romeo. Meanwhile, Romeo lies in bed, as after he tried to repent for his mistakes, he got sick and so Huki has to take care of him. When he starts sleep-talking about Juliet, Huki feels sad as she knows that she will never be in his heart. Just then, the others pull Huki away to deal with an issue, leaving Romeo by himself, still dreaming about Juliet. However, when he opens his eyes, Juliet pops up in front of him in her disguise. She tells him that she wants to take care of him, and while she's tidying up his room, he finds his stash of Mia Khalifa magazines. Romeo panics and he assures her that it's not his, as a Black Dog member gave it to him to cheer him up for some night fun time. He assures her that her plots are the only ones he loves, but Juliet gets flustered and leaves the room to look for food for Romeo. In her search, she gets lost and looks around the Black Dog's dorm instead, which impresses her with how big it is. She finds the dining hall and brings back an apple for Romeo, but on her way there, she is stopped by Maru. When she tells him that she's bringing food for Romeo, Maru devours the apple, not letting the failure get any treatment. Suspicious, he presses her identity, demanding to know if he's a man or a woman. Panicking, Juliet throws the drink at him and flees. She gets lost and, being a Westerner, slips into the girl's bath, and chaos erupts as all the plotful girls think she's a dude. Soaked and traumatized, Juliet returns to Romeo's room. He lends her his clothes and tries his best not to look while she changes, but ends up getting his eyes poked anyway. Suddenly, a Black Dog student knocks on the door, asking to get his Mia Khalifa magazine back. Juliet hides under the blanket, right on top of Romeo. When she gets up from him, his fever spikes again, and he passes out. In his dream, he dreams about his mother singing him a lullaby, and when he wakes up, Juliet sings the same song softly, reminding him of the past. He asks her where she learned the song, and Juliet explains that it's a lullaby that came from the West for a long time. She realizes that Romeo is now healthy, and he thanks her for coming there to take care of him. However, to his surprise, Juliet confesses that she came to see him not because of his fever, but because she wants to see him, which causes his fever to spike again. Meanwhile, two sisters from the Black Dog's Prefect are discussing their newfound interest in a student, and it turns out to be Romeo. Later, the sisters Koshu and Taria are studying in the library when what about an upcoming festival from the students around them? The students are in shock when they see the sisters so close to them, and as they walk away, everyone's eyes are on them, realizing that they are in the presence of greatness. They talk to Iru, who is the leader of the prefects, and ask him to let them go to the festivals as they want to have fun. He rejects, saying that a prefect's job is to protect the students. Koshu gets an idea and suggests that they could do their job at the festival where they handle the troublemakers that will show up there, and Iru agrees. Meanwhile, while hiding in plain sight, Romeo tells Juliet about the festival, hoping to ask her to go with him. However, while Juliet wants to go, she tells him how she doesn't want to wear a disguise after almost getting exposed by Maru, so she tells Romeo that they should meet up for the fireworks. She runs off before anyone sees them, leaving Romeo thrilled. While he's celebrating, out of nowhere, Kochu falls onto Romeo. He catches her, but accidentally holds her flatboard. Kochu bites his hand, and seeing her sister in trouble, Teria crashes onto his back, smacking his head to save her sister. Hasuki rushes over to check on Romeo, and when she spots the sisters, she immediately bows to them and orders Romeo to do the same. Being clueless, Romeo calls them the annoying duo. Hasuki introduces them to him properly, but before she introduces Romeo to them, the sisters already know him as the problematic one. She asks him what he was doing under the bench, and Romeo panics, but he realizes that they don't know that he was talking to Juliet, so he lies, claiming that he was talking to his friends, the ants. It causes them to feel sorry for him, but it makes the sisters more interested in him. Then, in the dorm, Romeo walks into his room to find the twins already there. They reveal that they found a rosary that belongs to Romeo, sending him into a panic. Kochu questions why he would have such an item, suspecting a hidden story. He quickly takes it back, but in the process, creates an accidental fan service with Teria, which to his surprise is packing a more plotful board than her sisters. He quickly bolts out of the room and barricades the sister inside, but to his surprise, the sisters escape with him, so he quickly runs away to the festival. The sisters follow him to the festival to do their duty of ensuring no problems between the students. They find Romeo in the middle of daydreaming about his date with Juliet, and when the twins confront him, he bolts, trying to lose them. Juliet sneaks out to a bushy area on the festival's edge to meet Romeo. He jumps out, startling her, and warns her about the twin prefects who are chasing him. He accidentally steps on a stick, drawing their attention, but quickly improvises by hiding behind cows. To fulfill their fireworks date, Romeo and Juliet make a run for it, passing by different obstacles just for their date, and end up inside a barrel. Being too close to each other, Romeo can't hold his banana split together. Suddenly, a scuffle breaks out between two food stand owners, upsetting nearby kids. The twins arrive and break it up effortlessly, showcasing their skills. Romeo observes them closely, sensing there's more to them. He decides to leave Juliet in the barrel and challenges the twins, challenging them to defeat him in festival games, or he will vandalize the whole festival, forcing the twins to have fun. They play multiple different games at different stalls, and the twins have never had so much fun as the one they're having. When they win the challenge, Romeo admits defeat and declares that the game is over, which saddens the twins who wanted to play some more. Romeo calls them out for always sticking to their prefect roles and never just hanging out like normal students, but he tells them to hit him up if they ever want to hang out again, leaving both girls blushing. Realizing it's nearly time for the fireworks, Romeo races back to find Juliet, but he's too late. He left her in the barrel for hours, and when he returns, Juliet greets him coldly after their failed date. However, she turns into a soft smile as she sees another side of him helping the twins to have fun, and likes it. Together, they light a handheld firework near the bushes, just the two of them in a simple, intimate fun. Back in the prefect dorms, the twins are still in awe of the experience they had with Romeo. Teria asks Kochu if she thinks Romeo will join the seasonal prefect selection. Kochu admits that if he did, it could shake up the entire school, but she still has doubts. After all, Iru is still in control. Meanwhile, Eru signs a document, silently setting his next move into motion, one that clearly involves Romeo. Days later, it is a week before Juliet's birthday, and Chartreuse is plotting something for Juliet's birthday. Just then, Juliet steps out of the shower and tells Chartreuse she doesn't need anything extravagant, but just a favor. Chartreuse is stunned when Juliet admits she wants to spend her birthday with Romeo. Meanwhile, in his room, Romeo is also planning something for Juliet, wondering aloud what kind of present to get her. Suddenly, Kochu and Teria, the twin sisters, reveal they've been in his room since last night. Kochu casually tells Romeo that Teria is interested in him, and warns him that when Teria gets interested in someone, she will follow them around like a toxic ex. Feeling overwhelmed, Romeo looks for a way to escape, but Kochu mentions they need to run a prefect errand on Dahlia Street. Seeing the chance to get a present for Juliet, Romeo volunteers to go in their place just so he can find Juliet her birthday present. While on the lookout for presents, he spots a cute cat plushie in a store window just as Chartreuse arrives and sees the same one. They reach for it at the same time and end up in a tug-of-war until the plushie rips in half. A security guard intervenes, but when he sees that it's Chartreuse he's talking to, he gets worried for her, warning her that local radicals are hiding on the island. For her safety, the security guard offers an escort, but Chartreuse insists she already has one. In an instant, she grabs Romeo and drags him into a shop to dress him like a White Cats member, saying to the security guard that Romeo is her escort. Afterward, Romeo feels humiliated and demands she bow if she wants a favor from him. But Chartreuse already knows why he's on Dahlia Street. As Juliet's childhood friend, she claims she knows what Juliet would actually want. Romeo, now out of ideas, reluctantly agrees to be her escort as they search together. Their first stop is a store selling melon covers. While Romeo is mortified, Chartreuse jokes about buying an inappropriate melon cover for Juliet, sending Romeo into a flustered, degenerate fantasy. He suggests something cuter instead, and while Chartreuse finds his reaction amusing at first, she eventually agrees. After going back and forth, they settled on a blue melon cover. Afterward, Chartreuse still can't decide on a present, and when Romeo mocks her indecision, Chartreuse mocks him back, saying how he's Juliet's lover and still doesn't know what she likes. Suddenly, it starts raining, and the two take shelter near a building, soaked and forced to take off their clothes. Chartreuse's pink melon cover becomes visible, and when she sees how Romeo notices it, she flirts with him. She tells him that if he gives up on Juliet, she will give him the hanky-panky, but Romeo rejects her coldly, saying that he has no interest in her. When the rain stops, Chartreuse walks away alone, telling him that his escort duty is finished. On her way back, she reflects on how in her life, she was always treated like a princess, never challenged by anyone, but that all changed when Juliet scolded her, which made them good friends. Now Romeo joins that short list and she smiles at the thought. Suddenly, a group of radicals attempts to kidnap her.
Realizing that she's someone important,
She takes one down with a Bruce Lee-style kick, leaving the other one facing her. Just then, Romeo pops up, and the radical fully expects Romeo to help him kidnap Chartreuse. But to his shock, Romeo knocks him out. Chartreuse asks why he saved her, not wanting to be indebted to him. But Romeo answers that he doesn't want Juliet to be sad if anything happened to her friend. It causes Chartreuse to burst into laughter, calling herself an even bigger idiot than him after seeing how far Romeo is willing to go for Juliet. Later, Chartreuse admits she's jealous after finding out that Juliet chose to spend her birthday with Romeo instead of her childhood friend. She realizes that as Juliet's friend, there are faces that Juliet shows Romeo that she will never see. It frustrates her that she couldn't be that person, but ever since she sees how happy Juliet is, she wishes Romeo the best of luck in making Juliet happy and finding a gift for her. She hands him a bag and leaves him to it, but when Romeo opens the bag, he's confused about what to do with the blue beauties in his hand. On his way to the dorms, he gets an arrow shot at him, and when he reads the message on it, Juliet asks him to meet in the library. When he gets there, in private, she requests that she wants to celebrate her birthday with him. While being on Code 9, Romeo plays it cool and agrees. Juliet also asks that he not crash her party at the White Cat's house like he always does, where he smacked her face with white cream. Romeo sheepishly admits he doesn't know what she wants for her present, and Juliet shyly tells Romeo that she wants a pair of accessories. Later, Romeo arrives at his own room and is startled to find Hisoka peeking at the door. Inside, he's shocked again, as he sees a man standing there with the twin sisters hiding behind him, a man he recognizes as his older brother, Iru. As the Prefect representative, he confronts Romeo for being a troublemaker. Iru shows Romeo the rosary Juliet gifted him, demanding for an explanation. Hasuki quickly steps in, claiming it's a gift Romeo bought for her, but Iru doesn't stop there, and he demands to know where the blue melon cover came from. Hasuki refuses to defend Romeo this time, leaving Romeo to look like a creep. Iru presses further, pointing out how strangely Romeo has been acting. He accuses Romeo of secretly having a relationship with a white cat girl, and warns Romeo that he would be branded a traitor, and Iru threatens to expel him from both the school and the family, saying Romeo could disgrace their name. Hasuki tries to speak up, but Iru cuts her off, threatening Hasuki to be branded as an accomplice. Romeo defends her, insisting she has nothing to do with this. He puts a hand on Iru's shoulder, asking him to trust him, but Iru grabs him by the collar and reminds Romeo he's already covered for him multiple times. Just then, Teria steps in and wraps her arms around Romeo from behind, trying to protect him. Iru orders Teria not to get involved, but both sisters beg Iru not to get violent, which he obliges to. Iru finally lets go and declares that Romeo will be under surveillance for a week. He orders him to fix his behavior. Only once his suspicions are cleared will Romeo be free again, but Romeo realizes Juliet's birthday is in exactly 1 week and begins to worry about what to do. Meanwhile, at the White Cat's house, Juliet bakes cookies. The cooking maid is proud of her perseverance, and after many attempts, Juliet finally gets it right. The cookies turn out great, and she shares them with friends like Chartreuse and Scott. When she asks Chartreuse for her opinion, Chartreuse cuts her off, saying she already knows Juliet learned to bake just so she could give them to Romeo on her birthday. Suddenly, someone nearby mentions seeing Romeo walking with the prefects. The comment catches Juliet and Chartreuse's attention. When they see Romeo walking behind Iru in fear, Juliet immediately senses something is wrong, having never seen Romeo that scared of something before. While walking, Kochu asks Romeo if he's not close to his own brother. Teria is startled by how blunt she is, and Kochu expresses how it's unusual for Iru to be so aggressive. Just then, a group of kids throws a paper airplane that hits Iru. While the kids are terrified, he calmly picks it up and folds it into a better one. Kochu tells them that Iru is awkward, but kind in his own way. However, Romeo disagrees. He says Iru only acts kindly to students and not to his own brother. He tells the twins that when they were kids, Iru used to spank him until he cried to discipline him. So to Romeo, his brother is traumatizing. In the days that follow, Romeo endures etiquette lessons and training under Iru. Even when he walked past Juliet out of fear of his brother, Romeo didn't dare to talk to her. Then, Eru takes Romeo to kendo practice, and on their way there, Hasuki hears next door how the White Cats are preparing for Juliet's birthday, which is something Hasuki knows Romeo wants to be a part of. During the kendo practice, Eru completely dominates Romeo, and Hasuki struggles to watch it. Afterward, Hasuki helps Romeo walk and warns him that the White Cats are buzzing about Juliet's upcoming birthday and suggests he stay off Eru's radar for a while. However, to her surprise, Romeo already has a plan, and he's waiting for the right moment when Eru lowers his guard so he can meet Juliet. Hasuki listens, then warns him that if he's caught with Juliet, he'll be expelled. She's afraid of what school would be like without him, but Romeo promises her he won't get expelled, and he won't leave her behind. That night, Romeo sneaks out of the dorm to meet Juliet at the fountain. He believes Eru is asleep and that the next patrol isn't due for another hour. Just as he reaches the gate, to his shock, Eru appears and orders him to stop, saying that he knows his every move. Romeo refuses and he swings a punch, but Eru blocks it, knees him in the stomach, dodges the next hit, and lands a clean blow to Romeo's face, knocking him down. Eru calls him weak and drags him to a nearby warehouse, saying it reminds him of the good old days. He locks Romeo inside. However, the twin sisters come to his rescue. Hours before, Romeo begs the twin sisters to help him, saying that he knows that he will end up locked up, so he needs them to break him out. While Kochu hesitates at first, Teria convinces her, saying that it's their duty as prefects to protect students. She sees that Romeo is standing up to his brother and believes they have to support him. Back in the present, while injured, Romeo rushes to find Juliet and wishes her a happy birthday, excited that he's finally able to celebrate the birthday of the one he loved after all this time. However, along the way, he starts losing his strength due to his injuries and collapses in the forest. When he regains consciousness, he has his head on Juliet's lap. She reveals that she knows Eru suspects their relationship after she asked Hasuki, who admitted Romeo might be expelled for their relationship. It makes Juliet feel terrible seeing all his injuries, and she tells him that what she wants more than some stupid birthday gifts is for him to be safe. Juliet begins to cry, apologizing over and over as she knows that as long as they're together, he'll keep getting hurt. However, Romeo won't give up, and he tells her there's nothing for them to feel guilty about for loving each other. Juliet hugs him tightly, still sobbing, saying, "Sorry." On the day of Juliet's birthday, while Scott and the other White Cats are planning an extravagant birthday for Juliet, Romeo pops up and yeets Scott away to look for Juliet after his failed celebration with her. When he finds her, Romeo chases her down, not caring if other people see them, and traps her in a corner so he can talk to her. She's afraid that if Eru sees them together, Romeo might get expelled. Romeo doesn't seem to care, but Juliet, feeling overwhelmed, shoves him. He falls to the ground, and she yells that she doesn't want to see him anymore, which breaks his heart. A few minutes later, Hasuki and a friend walk by and accidentally step on Romeo, who's lying there looking miserable. Hasuki helps him up and brings him to the sanatorium. She listens to Romeo venting, understands what he's going through, and calls him an idiotic buffoon. Romeo expresses how he's not in the mood for school, and unlike her usual self, Hasuki invites him to skip school with her. Their first stop is the dorm's game room, and while Romeo is not in the mood, Hasuki pushes him to play billiards. When he tries to hit the ball but ends up hitting Hasuki's plot by accident. Embarrassed, Hasuki suggests they do something else. They head to a sheep farm next, and because of the food in her pockets, Hasuki gets swarmed by sheep. Then they find themselves at the bell tower looking over the beautiful campus. As they enjoy the view, Hasuki leans on a wall that almost gives out beneath her, but Romeo catches her just in time. When Hasuki feels Romeo's hand around her waist, she feels her heart pounding and quickly smacks her own head to stay composed. After calming down, Hasuki asks Romeo to come back here with her someday, but that moment reminds Romeo of Juliet, and his mood sinks again. Meanwhile, in the White Cat's dorm, Juliet stares at the rosary Romeo gifted her in silence when Chartreuse comes in and reminds her that the party is about to start. Chartreuse notices the plate of cookies Juliet made for Romeo sitting on the table and asks why she didn't give it to him during their celebration. Juliet tries to give them to Chartreuse, but she refuses. She knows something happened between Romeo and Juliet. Juliet finally confesses and says that every time they're together, Romeo ends up getting hurt. She was scared and lost sight of what she should have done. She's terrified they won't be together anymore, and Chartreuse hugs her gently to calm her down. Back with Romeo, he declares that he is now in a good mood, but Hasuki calls him out on his lies, knowing that he's not. Hasuki suddenly bursts out in tears, saying that she feels like she's not enough for him to be happy. Romeo realizes he made Hasuki cry and starts hitting himself, but Hasuki stops him from continuing. Just then, Chartreuse appears out of nowhere and tells Hasuki that if she really wanted Romeo, she should have claimed him with her holy attributes before Juliet did. Chartreuse hands the cookies to Romeo and leaves for the party, reminding Romeo of Juliet's birthday. When Romeo tastes the cookies, his eyes fill up with tears, realizing that Juliet has been putting in effort for him. He turns to Hasuki and invites her to do their yearly tradition whenever it is Juliet's birthday. Back at the White Cat's house, Juliet is asking the representative for advice when a student bursts in, warning them about the black dogs that are invading. Juliet looks shocked and runs toward the door, but the head of the representative, Kate, stops her. Meanwhile, Romeo and his friends force their way into the White Cat's house, holding pies in hand, ready to fulfill the tradition. As he runs through the halls, Romeo imagines what Juliet might do if he finds her. A full-blown pie war erupts on the first floor between the black dogs and white cats. Romeo races upstairs in search of Juliet but gets stopped by Somali, who hugs him tightly. Beside her stands AB, who looks completely different after being kicked out of the dorm for his schemes. He says he plans to return and tells Romeo he'll be the sacrifice. Romeo tricks Somali by saying that Abby is jealous of him getting hugged by her, causing Somali to hug Abby instead. And he continues his mission to find Juliet. While running, he gets ambushed by white cat students who start attacking him. However, they lose track of him just as Kate appears and helps Romeo escape to the attic. Romeo senses trouble, realizing that Kate is someone powerful. Kate introduces himself with a weird ding-dong line that Romeo completely ignores. He tries to escape again, but Kate stops him with vital info, and he knows where Juliet is. Just then, more white cat students, led by Sieber, who's another representative, surround them. She orders Cadet to stop playing around, and he formally introduces himself as the white cat's representative. She tells Romeo that his friends downstairs are already subdued and advises him to surrender. Meanwhile, Juliet is locked in a room, trying desperately to get out. Remembering how much Romeo sacrificed for her, she looks out the window and makes up her mind. In that same moment, Romeo is cornered at the white cat's house with Kate beating him up like a ragdoll. When Romeo tries to fight back, he ends up getting schooled on how to fight. And Romeo realizes that compared to him and Iru, he's no match for them, and that he has to surpass them if he wants to change the world. Suddenly, he hears a faint voice from the outside and gains confidence. In one slick move, he ties up Kate's legs to stop him from moving and jumps out of the third-floor window, shocking everyone. Unbeknownst to them, Juliet is there after Romeo hears her voice and he reaches out to her. Meanwhile, the twins inform Aero that black dog students are crashing Juliet's birthday, but Eru knows that his brother is involved. Back with the couple, Romeo scolds Juliet for putting herself in danger, but she claps back at him, saying that she is the one worried about him for doing stupid things. Romeo wishes her a happy birthday after not saying it to her before, and tells her that he will come to find her every time. She starts beating him up and calls him an idiot, but admits that she's also the idiot. She tells him that she was happy when she hears that he was there to crash her party, and from the bottom of her heart, she tells her that she loves her. They embrace each other. And when Juliet sees that he's crying, she realizes that despite the giant wall society has created between their two dorms, Romeo manages to climb past it with his bravery to overcome his fear, all for his love for her. Meanwhile, the Black Dog students have all completely bowed down with Iru there, and he tells Hasuki that he will be looking for Romeo. Suddenly, Romeo and Juliet pop up, both with pie in hand, and they creepy each other in the face. They declare that it's a draw, but Romeo tells the Black Dogs that victory is theirs with Juliet's birthday ruined. Romeo declares that they retreat, but Eru stops them all in their tracks. While Romeo tries to act brave in front of his brother, Eru demands an explanation and asks if Juliet is the person he's been with behind everyone's backs. Eru tells them that because Romeo failed to meet her the day before her birthday, he chose to come on that day for his lover. Juliet refuses to be painted as that idiot's lover and demands proof. Iru talks about the rosary he found in Romeo's room and the date marked on his calendar, but he tells Juliet that he has something of hers that can match what she owns. Juliet agrees to see if what he holds matches what she has, and to everyone's shock, Eru pulls out the Betty Blues, which is the same motif of a Western undies. Everyone demands an answer from the pair, and Kate steps in, telling Juliet that he also demands an explanation from her. Romeo watches as everyone starts to doubt them, and as their prefects pull them away, he starts thinking hard about what to do. He refuses to stay still, but just as he's about to confess to everyone, Juliet throws him a real sword and declares a duel. She states that after Romeo humiliated her, she wants a real sword fight with him, even if it costs her life. She starts attacking him, slash after slash that Romeo has to defend against, and while he hesitates, Juliet goes full power. Aru is still not convinced and believes that it's a fake fight. However, when Juliet declares that she's fighting to protect who she is, Romeo realizes that they both need the resolve to die for one another to be able to change the world. So, he changes his attitude and fully aims to defeat Juliet with all he has, all for the sake of their love. While everyone watches, they charge at each other and stab each other's hearts. That night, the others wait outside the doctor's office and believe that after what happened, they couldn't be lovers. They both merely survive after both prefects stopped them, but now nobody doubts that they hate each other. After the others leave, they celebrate their success of tricking everyone after they stabbed each other's rosary instead of their hearts. They both apologize for breaking their rosaries, but Juliet is in tears, feeling relieved after what they went through. From his pockets, Romeo pulls out matching rings and he tells Juliet that they are her birthday presents. While putting the ring on her fingers, he tells her that he will become a prefect like his brother and change the school so they can be together. She hugs him out of happiness and tells him that as his lover, she will wait for him, and Romeo is so happy that his soul flies off to meet Ace. Comment down below, Temu, Romeo, and Juliet if you watch till the end. Subscribe so you don't miss the next video.